massive rock slide along U.S. Route 52 created a domino-like traffic snarl, impacting the tri-state region between Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia.
When a tree fell over on his church van in Ashland, Kentucky, Josh Howard was trapped inside during a torrential rain and hailstorm.
Shots have been fired in front of the U.S. Capitol building. Police spokeswoman says the suspected shooter has been, and I quote, neutralized.
Suspect being tased.
And sheriff's deputies attempt to tase him, kicking him in the groin and in the head, before kneeing him and landing punch after punch on his body.
Outrage is growing over the shooting death of an unarmed black man by a white police officer in Charleston, South Carolina.
This is a developing story that we are following. As ABC's Karen Travers explains, activists say the shooting could have been prevented if the officer's past had been investigated.
Without this video, Walter Scott's family may not have learned what happened in his final seconds. After the shooting Saturday, the North Charleston Police Department said former officer Michael Slager opened fire because he felt threatened and that Scott grabbed his stun gun. Faden Santana recorded the shocking video on his cell phone. He told ABC News that when he heard that initial account on the news,
and I saw it was all the opposite of what the video showed. So that's when I thought about erasing the video and even leaving the community.
But he didn't. He turned it over because he felt it was the right thing to do for Scott's family.
Shot fired. Subject is down. You grab my taser.
Slager's been charged with murder in the shooting death of the 50-year-old Scott, and the North Charleston Police Department's now looking into his past police work. He's had 2 complaints in 5 years and was cleared on the only serious charge, excessive force.
Any questions anybody has, we're more than willing to look at.
Mario Givens filed a complaint against Slager, alleging that the officer wrongly shot him in the stomach with a stun gun. His account was backed up by at least 2 other witnesses, but police took no action.
If they had even tried to listen to me and really investigate it, that man would have probably been alive.
The North Charleston Police Department reported they tried to give first aid and CPR to Walter Scott after he was shot. Faden Santana says he never saw that happen. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
A massive rock slide along U.S. Route 52 created a domino-like traffic snarl, impacting the tri-state region between Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia. The slide occurred early on Friday in the westbound lanes of the Lawrence County, Ohio highway. The debris field, including a house-sized boulder, spread out across the 4-lane highway. It stayed closed for cleanup while cars were rerouted in attempts to alleviate major traffic congestion. I'm Ari Sarsalari, the Weather Channel.
When a tree fell over on his church van in Ashland, Kentucky, Josh Howard was trapped inside during a torrential rain and hailstorm. The massive tree heavily damaged the new ministry's van, but Josh, who wasn't hurt, managed to capture the intense power of the storm and post his incredible experience on social media. Social media has been praising Josh's good fortune with offers to help out with the loss of the van. I'm Alex Wilson, the Weather Channel.
At least 2 animals were killed after a massive tornado struck a northern Illinois zoo on Thursday. Intense wind tore the roof from the Summerfield Zoo in Belvedere and knocked down fencing on the property. Zoo owners say an emu and a black swan were killed by the tornado. 18 reindeer managed to break free when the storm hit, but volunteers wrangled them to shelter. The zoo, which is scheduled to reopen in 2 weeks, will start a cleanup effort immediately. Supporters have already started a GoFundMe page to aid with the reconstruction. I'm Ari Sarsalari, the Weather Channel.
Family members in Rochelle, Illinois sift through debris and belongings as they begin the arduous cleanup process following Thursday's deadly tornadoes that killed at least 2 people and left a trail of damage in parts of the state. Danny Chisamore lives nearby and discovered the roof of his grandparents' house had been torn off in the storm and the home's interior strewn about the neighborhood. Danny's siblings, cousins, aunts, and uncles are all pitching in to salvage what they can from the destruction. His grandparents, who owned the home, were in Florida when the storm hit. I'm Alan Hugh, the Weather Channel.
What's going to happen?
Joe and Sarah DiBenedetto and their 2 sons left the city to move to their dream farmhouse and barn in Fairdale, Illinois. Their barn, their cars, an RV, all of it now destroyed.
So when you saw the tornado coming from this direction, it was heading right to your house?
Yes.
And you're thinking what?
I'm thinking my house is going to be gone.
Inside their house, a never-before-used tornado shelter where they rushed as the twister approached. The sons take me inside.
So this shelter is tiny. This is where the whole family was when the tornado hit. Was it scary being here and not knowing what was going on?
We couldn't hear anything, so we really didn't know what was going on. So that was the scariest part.
Sarah says her husband and sons were relatively nonchalant initially.
I was okay until I saw them running in total panic, because then I knew if they're panicking, we're screwed.
They stayed in the shelter not knowing what to expect. When they climbed up the basement stairs,
we came out the front door there and we couldn't believe it. It looked like a war zone.
They saw their barn right away, but quickly walked around the house and couldn't believe their home, only a short distance from the barn, had relatively minor damage.
To give you an idea of the power of this tornado, take a look at this. A branch that has gone through the house like a bullet. And we go inside the kitchen here, and you'll see the other end of it. It almost looks like a javelin came through, and the family's already written on it, in memory of tornado, April 9th, 2015.
Farther down the street, other homeowners in Fairdale much unluckier. Utter devastation after what old-timers say is the most powerful tornado they've ever seen here.
Fairdale, Illinois is a tiny community. Only about 150 people live here. It's only about a quarter square mile. A disaster like this affects everybody here.
Obviously, you need a hug.
Not far away, people from all over come to help out a family who also suffered heavy damage at their farmhouse and barn.
If somebody's in need, boy, just everybody shows up, and that's the great thing about farm communities.
The DiBenedettos tell us they were just about to insure their barn, but hadn't done so. However, they take it in stride.
This is a St. Joseph statue, and what it's supposed to do is protect the home.
Take it in stride because they were not hurt.
Gary Tuckman joins us now. Did people get any warnings that tornado was coming?
Well, this small town of Fairdale, Anderson, does not have a tornado siren warning system, but some of the neighboring towns do. So people here say they heard the sirens in the other towns about 15 minutes before, and that was some good warning for them. In addition, people on their cell phones got messages. The messages read, "Warning, warning, take cover now, tornado," and that was also very important for people who live here. Behind me, Anderson, you can see the devastation. There's an incredible story here. You see that blue car right over there? A man was in that car when the tornado destroyed his house. He survived. He's okay today. But what we can tell you is the great sadness in this area. Within a mile radius of where I'm standing, 2 women were found and they died from their injuries. I will tell you that's desperately sad, but last night when we heard about how strong this tornado was, we were very fearful that the death toll would be much higher.
Here's your pursuit.
It's a police chase that looks like something out of the Wild West.
I've got this guy on a stolen horse.
30-year-old Francis Pusock attempting to outrun law enforcement on the back of a stolen horse in a rural part of San Bernardino County. A KMBC helicopter was recording as the bizarre chase ends when the horse bucks the suspect.
Suspect being tased.
And sheriff's deputies attempt to tase him. Then as deputies get closer, Pusock appears to surrender, lying face down on the ground before putting his hands behind his back. That doesn't stop the officers from mobbing around Pusock, kicking him in the groin and in the head, before kneeing him and landing punch after punch on his body. It's a beating that lasts about 2 minutes, with 10 officers involved, all of whom are now on paid administrative leave.
Somebody should go to prison over this. What I saw on the television was thugs beating up my client. That's what I saw. And these questions about what was he doing, what did they do? This is far worse than Rodney King.
San Bernardino Sheriff John McMahon has ordered an immediate internal investigation. The Specialized Investigation Detail is also conducting a criminal investigation as well.
I am disturbed and troubled by what I see in the video. It does not appear to be in line with our policies and procedures, at least a portion of it. I ask that you allow us to conduct that investigation, and I assure you, if there's criminal wrongdoing on the part of any of our deputy sheriffs or any policy violations, we will take action.
The Sheriff's Department says deputies were attempting to serve Pusock with a search warrant related to an identity theft investigation when he first fled in a car, then abandoned it and ran into the desert where he stole a horse and took off. In total, a chase that went on for some 3 hours.
I'm not going to stand here and say that he's perfect, because who is?
Pusock's girlfriend of 13 years believes the officers went too far.
They beat the crap out of him, and now they're trying to do everything that they can to avoid them being in any trouble.
In trouble in an era where police tactics are under intense public scrutiny.
And Stephanie joins us now. Do we have any update on this guy's condition?
Well, what we know, Anderson, is that he did have some cuts and bruises. He was taken to the hospital, and then after that was placed in custody, where he remains right now.
What's amazing is that they were punching this guy in full view of a helicopter, a news helicopter, which they must have known was hovering right above them. Did any of the deputies actually have body cameras, do we know?
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal that they didn't think about that angle, too, when you watch it. What we understand from the Sheriff's Department is that they had audio recorders, but that's part of the investigation. The Sheriff's saying that he has not seen that or heard them yet, so we haven't heard that part of it, but it'll be interesting to see from the ground level. The other thing I can tell you tonight, Anderson, that's new, is that the FBI is launching an investigation to see if Pusock's civil rights were violated during this whole arrest that we saw captured on that film yesterday.
This is a tornado, and I cannot tell which way it is going, so I don't know how to get away from it. But it looks like it's coming right towards me. Yeah, it's coming right over me. Oh, crap. I have honestly never been in a tornado before. Ridiculous. Oh, that is scary. The truck is, oh my gosh. Holy smokes. Oh no. Yeah, that is completely crazy. The truck feels like it's about to lift up off the ground. Not lying. Oh my gosh.
It may have been a half-mile wide, spinning at up to 200 miles an hour, and the people of Fairdale, Illinois were right in its path.
Right over this way. Where did we go last night when we got scared? Did we go down in the basement?
Down there in the dark, 3-year-old Jade Swanson rode out her first tornado. It's also Grandma's first.
We've watched them go around us. Never had one right here.
Ran upstairs, grabbed her, and told Grandma to come downstairs.
She didn't cry. Just wanted to know what we were doing, so we're going to stay here till the storm goes away.
Had patio doors shattered from the fence coming through.
Did you have flashlights at all? Or?
There were in the house.
But not with you?
No, we just ran.
I was more focused on getting down to the basement.
Across a cornfield, Tanner Young's house still has a staircase.
We're going upstairs.
But no longer has a second floor.
Over to the right, this was a storage room. The bathroom is in here. Same sort of thing in there. Everything's getting pushed around with the wind. You can't even really move the doors at all.
Trisha Brittenham is aunt to the 3 kids who live here.
They've been here for about 3 years.
It all happened so fast. This large tree took out a huge chunk of the house. This was 6-month-old Henry's room. You can see from the animals on the wall. In fact, his crib was right here. Now it's buried in debris. Call it luck or something else, but they were all out of town when the tornado came through. For once, this full house was empty.
I know. Talk about a silver lining, yeah.
Every cloud's got one, even the one that created this monster.
It's crazy. It's hard to take in.
In southwest Syria, pro-government forces have reportedly repelled an attack on a key airport during a fierce battle in which they lost 20 fighters but killed 15 militants. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says the attack took place on outskirts of the Kahala military airport in Swida province on Friday. The airport lies along a major highway that links the regime-held provincial capital to Damascus. Forces loyal to the government were able to maintain control of the airport and its surrounding areas. There was no confirmation of the identity of the attackers. Meanwhile, in northwest Syria, insurgents bombarded a government-held part of Aleppo overnight, killing at least 8 people. Insurgent groups in and around the city have repelled repeated attempts by the Syrian military and militia fighting alongside it to cut supply lines from Turkey to the rebels. Syria's state news agency described insurgents as hardline Islamist militants linked to Turkish government, who wants to see President Bashar al-Assad removed from power.
I'm not interested in having battles that, frankly, started before I was born. What I am interested in solving problems, working with you. That's what the United States is interested in doing. That's why we've invested so much in our bilateral relationships, and that's why I will continue to invest in creating the kind of spirit of equal partnership and mutual interest and mutual respect upon which I believe progress can advance.
I was told the speeches are limited to 8 minutes, and my foreign minister and I have made great efforts to shorten the speech. But since I was excluded from the past 6 summits, 6 times 8 is 48, so I hope the chairman of the summit can give me more time. I've said this publicly to President Obama, that he was born during the U.S. trade embargo. There have been 10 presidents in that time. I thank him for his courage and determination with which he brought the issue of ending the trade embargo to the U.S. Congress and relevant parties.
Could one of nature's masters of camouflage help disguise soldiers in combat? Findings from a recent research study from a team of scientists at the University of California, Irvine say they've been able to isolate a key protein in squid skin, which could one day help soldiers disguise themselves at night during combat and effectively make them invisible from infrared detection. The unique light-reflecting protein is called reflectin. Reflectin has enabled squid and other cephalopods such as octopus and cuttlefish to blend into their environments for millions of years. Researchers say reflectin is super versatile and with the right mechanical or chemical stimulus can virtually be turned into any color. Inspired, researchers found a way to produce reflectin in the lab and create invisibility stickers. These stickers are essentially tape coated with films of protein.
You can tune their coloration by changing the thickness of the overlaid protein film.
The lab technology is still a ways away from being used on the battlefield. Researchers say the key to all of this is to figure out a way to make the multiple stickers work in sync as a single camouflage unit.
There's really very little limitation on the type of pattern that you can make or the type of surface that you can put them on, because they're just stickers after all.
Shots have been fired in front of the U.S. Capitol building. Police spokeswoman says the suspected shooter has been, and I quote, neutralized. The Capitol building and a nearby visitors center are in lockdown as a precaution. Police are also investigating a suspicious package outside the building. Solon Safadi joins me now with more from Washington. And Solon, the Capitol building remains in lockdown. What can you tell us?
That's right. The Capitol building and the Capitol complex, which includes the Capitol Visitor Center, remains in lockdown. And just want to reach you a little bit more confirmation to CNN from the U.S. Capitol Police saying, quote, shots have been fired on the west front of the U.S. Capitol building. The suspected shooter has been neutralized, they say, but the U.S. Capitol building has been locked down as a precautionary measure. Now, they do go on to say in that course of that statement that additionally they are looking into a suspicious package, which they believe is in some way connected to that incident. This is a time, Linda, of a lot of tourism here in Washington, D.C. Springtime, the cherry blossoms. But Congress is out on recess. Of course, it also is a weekend, so there weren't many members or their staff inside at the time of this incident.
Discovering alien life. It's the holy grail of space exploration. Well, NASA's chief scientist Ellen Stofan says that such a finding is not that far off. She expects that we'll find indications of life within the next decade and definitive evidence within the next 30 years.
Within all of our lifetime, though, we're going to understand that there is life on other bodies in the solar system. We're on the verge of things that people have wondered about for millennia. Are we alone?
Why the burst of optimism? Water. Water is a key ingredient in life as we know it. And scientists say if you find water, your odds of finding life go up. And it turns out our galaxy is a soggy place. Outside of our solar system, astronomers think there may be many worlds covered by deep oceans. So NASA says our galaxy and our solar system are awash in water, and it's just a matter of time until we find life on another planet. But don't expect little green men.
A stranger from the outside.
NASA says expect little green microbes.
Well, Julie, even though it has not been quite as nice as we'd like it to be, it has kept us from seeing much in the way of spring flooding. All the snow we had this winter continues to gradually melt the snow away. Typically this time of year, snow melt, especially to our north, along with April showers, cause area rivers like the Connecticut River to rise, leading to flooding. But that hasn't been the case this year.
With the amount of snow, especially what they received up north, I would have expected there to be a great deal of flooding, Connecticut River. However, maybe in the fact that March has been not so warm, it may be a blessing in disguise.
Now, most river levels are within their banks. The current is running fairly swift, but there isn't a lot of debris in the river, which usually we see around this time of year. There's also still quite a bit of snow up to our north that has to melt, so we could still see some river flooding later this month.
Now, Saudi airstrikes against the Yemeni people enter 18th straight day as several more locations throughout the impoverished country have been bombarded. In the latest attack, Saudi jets targeted a residential area in the southwestern city of Taiz, leaving nearly a dozen people dead and 20 injured. And most of the victims of the attack, which targeted the Dahira region, have been children. Earlier, Saudi jets targeted the central city of Amran, killing 3 people there. The warplanes also bombed different parts of the Sa'adah province, killing 4 others. Now, several other locations were also hit in the capital Sana'a and the city of Hudaydah to the west.
The Saudi airstrikes on Yemen have entered the 3rd week, with many residential areas targeted during the past weeks. Despite the ongoing aerial campaign, the Saudi list of military targets inside Yemen have failed to meet a success. This residential area in Al Jiraf region in the north of the capital Sana'a has been hit hard. In this deep pit, which was created by the airstrike, there was a 2-story building. It's completely destroyed, making many residents here wonder why such densely populated area must be targeted by the Saudi fighter jets. At least 5 houses were damaged and more than 100 families have been displaced in Al Jiraf. They are fearful of the Saudi bombardments.
I was sitting inside that house, just 20 meters away from the house, which was destroyed by the airstrike. I wonder why they have targeted this residential place. We do not have weapons here, and these places are far from any military targets, as the Saudis claim.
The Saudi-imposed closure of land, sea and air routes into Yemen has also caused an additional pain in the Arab world's most impoverished nation.
The Saudis' airstrikes have only targeted the innocent civilians. Now, with the aerial and naval siege of Yemen, the situation has further deteriorated. People fear from the airstrikes and a looming hunger. It's a war similar to the Israeli wars on the people of Gaza.
According to figures released by the Yemeni army on Friday, at least 1,000 civilians have been killed and more were injured since the beginning of the Saudi airstrikes on March 26th. Many international organizations and countries have slammed the continuation of the Saudi Arabia's unauthorized illegal war in Yemen as a violation of the international laws and norms.